Hello there.
When fuck you my house? Fuck off. Yeah? My name's Angus, and I just watched Grimgar Phantom of Ash for the third time, whereas none of you have. Peasants. So the year is 2025. I am going to inform you on the entire anime and all the little intricacies and details. Yes, other reviews have done this anime to death, but I'm going to cover every single episode of this anime to basically drain the living life out of it, because I don't feel like reviews on the whole on anime are too generalized. When so much happens inside the episode, you can't really talk about it all and your entire feelings and opinions on it, because it changes in between the episodes. I really want to understand that sort of feeling of capturing the anime and also really enjoying it with all the little nitbits about it. And I know basically there's problems with dual monitor content, maybe inebriation. This is not a video that you can watch inebriated, and if you do, I'm going to give you a fucking massive headache. So I'm apologizing to you if inebriated. On a side tangent, yeah, because of the production length of this video and also the actual amount of effort I've gone into this video, I assume that you have to make the same level of effort, or at least a fraction of what I've spent, probably too long on this video editing it. And so I expect the same amount of effort, at least fractionally, to watch the entire video on your end. And if you don't, that's a bit disrespectful, wouldn't it? Like, fuck knows. But however, what I can say is that I love Grimgar with all my heart, yeah? And I think you should love it as even fractionally as much as me. And I know most of you haven't remembered what's happened, so let's get into the video. Bang! Grimgar Phantom of Ash was a 2016 anime series, which was originally a light novel from 2013. So, as you guys know, this was created by A1 Pictures, the creators of Solo Leveling, Sword Art Online, and some other quite cursed anime, all things considering, if you look at A1 Pictures' catalogue. And not to mention 7 Deadly Sins as well, if you know the shit show that was. So, with A1 Pictures, you get quite a lot of mediocre anime adaptations, because mainly anime is used as a marketing tool for the source material a lot of the time. Solo Leveling less so, which it was more so a way of, I think it was more so a bigger production because it was one of the biggest manhwas ever created. So it was a lot more about showing how good their technical skills were by using Solo Leveling as their canvas. But they did butcher the source material quite a lot. So what we're gonna cover in this video is we're gonna cover characters, we're gonna cover fight scenes, we're gonna cover atmosphere, we're gonna cover some behind the scenes, we're gonna cover voice acting, direction, and all this fun stuff, you guys. So honestly, if you really think about it, this anime was a progenitor just actually inside like the beginning of the Isekai boom. But however, what contrasts this to quite a lot of other Isekais is that people in these sorts of stories are very much based off D&D. And so within this specific Isekai, things feel a lot more human because of the pacing, and There's proper narrative arcs within this, and so even though it is a very patchy adaptation of the source material, it is a complete story, which is very impressive given the production schedule of this anime. And it's just a marvel to see how all these things come together to create one of the greatest isekais ever made. So I'm going to let this series talk for itself and let it take it away. Grimgar as an anime has one of the most peaceful yet somber OSTs I've heard within all of anime. I should know, since I have watched 772 and counting as of recording this video. Let's not make it about me just yet. Grimgar often tends to use silence to let the environment of its world sink in. It is cliche, however, the snail's pace of Grimgar really helps it feel more real. In addition to that, from an adaptation point of view, some establishing shots were not necessary and basically were wasted runtime. But fuck, they are beautiful. From the scenes of the ever cascading city of a small town to just the places that they go to kill goblins, it all has this really serene atmosphere. To take in the atmosphere really requires the use of the music and also, of course, the beautiful visuals of animation. Production of the Fantasy of Grimgar was a 2016 anime based off a light novel, which I haven't read. Here I'm listing other roles the voice actors did that I like the other roles in, and is that motherfucking Shanks from One Piece? And Baki Hammer? Oh no. That's fucking Elsa. Oh shit. Not only is it Elsa, it's the same person who voiced one of the worst characters ever written in all of anime. Shota from Kanokon. I'm done. I'm so dumb. Kenichi! He's got to with the sauce! Cook Justin was the producer for the English version, and he basically did a lot of the English dubs. So he did also do ones for Spike's Family and I think some for JJK. Arada Naokoi has been a producer for a low-budget isekai that's infamously bad, which is specifically Black Summoner. However, redeeming quality, I like to be fair, she also worked on the Faraway Paladin. Saoto Masama, IX Family plus JJK, which is a producer for one of them. And now we're going to show you Nakamura Ryosuke, the GOAT, the undisputed GOAT who has carried this anime. If you like, look, director, sound director, episode director, script, storyboard, series, composition, key animation. This man has been on so many different anime. I'm about to show you, and it's going to blow your socks off. So, take it away.
Were you gonna stay in bed all day, Haruhiro? Rise and shine, up and at 'em. It's morning. Cock.
Hey, where's my phone? My phone? Wait, what's a phone again?
Haruhiro is the one who references his past life the most within Grimgar. However, his memories have been wiped. His class is a thief. Abilities such as Spider and the chance to get critical hits are the main abilities shown within the anime. His personality presented within the anime, but to like his general personality, is that he's empathetic, he works hard, he basically idolizes Minato, and spots the obvious mistakes within his party. Roles. So whittling down enemies, stamina, sneak attacks, primary frontliner. So basically your thief class in D&D. Weaknesses, does not admit his failings, idolizes Minato as a perfect leader, sometimes is not proactive enough to stop things from falling through. I'm going to jail, aren't I? Yep. Minato is the party leader, the guy in command. My headcanon is that he is Irish Catholic. His job class is a priest, but he can heal without restoring the blood of a person. It sounds wrong. Can only do bludgeoning damage. Again, sounds wrong. Skills, smash, type of Catholic priest, I assure you. Instead, he likes the taste of alcohol. However, this is a quote, and from this quote you can infer in a possibility for him to be an alcoholic. And now I think you're kind of getting what I'm kind of saying with the Catholic priest stuff. Moving on to Manato's simp. This stuff was never properly explained. So like, also why she liked him within the anime. So the character just likes Minato relatively superficially from an anime perspective, and also I think because of how the light novel was adapted, it was from primarily Haruhito's point of view. So within the anime, the information is unknown. She is bad at communicating with men. Again, not explained in the anime. Also a POV issue. She is the party's mage. She does shadow magic. It sounds like she chants French, but to me it sounds French. Again, it's probably not French. The magic sleep. So her spells sleep, which she has to hit a target with. She has a bind ability which has high effectiveness but low accuracy. Then she also has a bind high effectiveness medium, high accuracy medium effectiveness, so it's easier to aim. From the visuals from anime. So this is my interpretation. So she is also, I'm pretty sure she's based off the Dario archetype, which is basically she's incredibly shy as her singular defining characteristic, other than calling herself fat. And she gets upset a lot inside the first season of the anime. She has a large charge up time for her magic. She can't defend herself for shit. And so, to summarize, she's basically a worse Megumin from Konosuba. Less funny as well. I would comment on the reference of how she's written, however, it's gone to her tits. Again, hopefully the light novel does this better. But again, the anime, the only thing the anime really mentions is that she's shy, she calls herself fat, and talks. It's a shame, really. But That's that character. Now moving on to the boys. First of all, the guy on the left is Moguzo, a stereotypical tank. He's the team's cook, and his two abilities is War Cry and the Thanks Slash skill. His personality-wise, he is a big softie. So the one in the middle is a smug warrior named Kirikawa, who's a drunkard, and that's all we get in the anime. And now Cock, i.e. Ranter, he doesn't shut up. He has danger sense. He is something called a Dark Knight. Good intentions, but has a bad way of going about it. He's a secondary tank, and also he's a bit of a tsundere bugger. He is aware of his attempt to make the party unite against him. And to put it in a sentence, imagine a more annoying Overwatch Genji main back from 2016. Yume is primarily the hunter class, which is basically a ranger from D&D. She is the primary tsundere of the anime. There's 12 different R shots of her from the director, from the primary director, and sexualization is being used as a hook, and there's a lot of R shot cinematography. Initially, she is terrible with a bow, and then gets slightly better with it later on in the anime. Then she learns to throw daggers as what she claims to be better within the anime. Renchi is presented as overconfident in episode 1 of the anime. Then the only other episode that he shows up is episode 5 and episode 12. And on the whole, he is sort of presented as going to be the primary antagonist of the story, but he ends up doing nothing really. Then the primary goal of all these characters is to survive their new living situation in this world that is full of very, very dangerous creatures as volunteer soldiers by a perverted guy. They sell their quote-unquote phones, or one of them nicks the phones for 20 silver, so 2 of them can become volunteer soldiers for their respective teams. Renji takes all the competent people, whereas the quote-unquote leftovers form a party. It's slightly different in the light novel, whereas Moguzo joins after being kicked out slightly later on, and he also had less armor in the light novel. However, it ends up the same way, and it's also, the effect's the same, but it's just that he didn't have like a proper armor, as the anime shows. Episode 1 ends really boringly, and so I'm just going to skip it. So in episode 2, Manto has been out drinking, and so that his drinking gets introduced into the party dynamic. Why was he out drinking? We do not know. Haruhiro interprets him drinking somehow helpful to the party, probably a reconnaissance thing of trying to figure out information. But Red Moon being the moon was not red, as in they are isekai to this world. Again, the isekai gets dropped, and it just goes straight fantasy for the rest of the anime. And why does Manto not like his teacher? Questions. In the middle of the episode, a music section happens again. It establishes Shino's crush on Minato, i.e. the Minato simp. Then it goes on to Haruhiro's conversation with Minato, and him withholding how he feels about basically the party not really getting that much done. But he puts a positive twist on it in his sort of weird monologue of like they've made progress, which again is him compensating for them being a bit shit after getting 5v1 by a goblin. The fucking goblin was insane. All the boys were all complicit in Ranta's actions of leading them to the bathhouse to peep on the girls. Haruhiro apologises the next episode to resolve this matter. So the awful behaviour of Ranta was used as a cliffhanger. It was worse in the light novels. And also, this is why Ranta's behaviour and Ranta as a character is so hated in some anime only spears back in 2016 for context. On the whole, the fight scenes within Grimgar are quite basic and non-dynamic, but what makes the fight scenes up, in my honest opinion, is the emotional music and the feeling of danger that you get with each fight scene and the stakes within it. If I were to say the best fight scene, it would be episode 2 with their first goblin fight, where it's a 1v5, the goblin, it's 1v6, with the goblin basically being like an Elder Scrolls, that one Elder Scrolls NPC in that one trailer. If you know, you know. I mean, technically, the worst one would be just sitting, slipping the goblin's neck and then fucking off back to their dingy stable. Because it's just such a basic ass, boring kind of fight they did. But it did show some progression with their skills, which was good for narratively for what they did. But it was a boring fight. And suddenly, without any warning, with Manito's death, the party had to pay for his body to be cremated. Because in this world, if you die, you can turn into an undead, i.e. the no-life king. So it cost their party 1 silver for the grave and plus for their friend's cremation. Is this worth? Is that the worth of one of their friends? Haruhiro asks. Just after Manito dies, there's a vague introduction of his mentor, who basically taught him to be a healer. Moving on to episode 5, they find out the goblins know how to deliberately target priests. This information was presented to us by Kiwikawa. Straight after he died, Renji tries to pay them 1 gold for Manito dying. Haruhito returns the gold, then decides to become the new leader of the party to replace Manito's death. Again, in episode 5, the boys and girls separate over Manito's death. And so Haruhito decides to suddenly have a new team member to, again, fill up the healer position, which introduced us, the audience and the party, to Mary, their new healer. And this is a turning point in the story. So in episode 6, Mary's teammates Shirohana and Hayashi were introduced. The teams discover 3 of her teammates died in a dungeon because she used her healing magic too much in the Siren Mine. First mention where her part died The massive black and white spotted cobalt, otherwise known as death spots, was also introduced in this episode. They introduced these characters basically behind Mary's back because the team went to snoop about her past. So quickly moving on to episode 7, the team opens up about Manto's death, and so this is visually represented with a bird's metaphor, one bird flying away with 5 birds on the windowsill. Then there's a new bird that comes to perch, is of nearer inside a kind of a speed up run through sequence to basically show that even despite Manto leaving them by him dying, he has been replaced. Further elaborating about the small time lapse, they basically gained the nickname called Goblin Slayers. The visual narrative arc from losing his old dagger is now being wielded by Goblin from episode 4 when Manito died. We get some beautiful shots inside the Goblin hideout when we focus on the Orange Goblin versus Blue Goblin playing chess from a side angle. The party does fight scenes, works their way up to that room, then finds blood already spilt on the chessboard. What's really funny, you can imply the Orange Goblin killed the Blue Goblin over cheating the match. Also, chess used symbolism for intelligence. It shows that there's a less difference between the goblins and the humans, as one could argue. The healer Mary gets shot in the back by a goblin from the broken Bruce wooden beams, which calls back to Manto from episode 4 of how he got shot in the back. The fight ends with stabbing the goblin with Haruhiro's reclaimed dagger. The fight ends with killing the bow goblin, which symbolises their growth from Manto's dying. So the episode ends with Manto's goal of all of them becoming proper soldiers completed through Haruhiro and the party giving him the tag so they can complete their wish together, which contrasts episodes 4 and 5 grave scenes. Also, the unrequited love from Shiho and the symbolism of snow and purity, and also semantic field of winter. So again, that will give the semantic field of death, unrequited love, purity, as again most winter stuff does. It's just a really cool cinematic shot done by, I think it was done by Toho Animation. And the ending song plays. The ending song is so sad, honestly. If you haven't seen Grimgar's ending song, you fucking need to. There is a post-credit scenes confrontation about the nickname. So finally Haruhiro reveals to Mary the betrayal of going behind her back to find out about her past, and he apologizes. Then Mary chooses to forgive him, which contrasts between episode 5 and 6 of how she formerly treated him and the rest of the party, and how they've both grown as characters. So it's finally the day off in episode 9 with the fucking bridge scene again. So if you don't know, the bridge scene happens so often in this anime, and the makers of this anime love this bloody bridge so much. I don't know why. It's just The bridge scenes start in like episode 2 with a callback to Manito calling it a great spot for a sunrise. Shiho mentions on the bridge the sunrise, which I was referring to call back because she still hasn't got over Manto's death, and it's just the subtle writing of not being let go of someone that you love, and then that contrast to her trying to get to know Haruhiro better and trying to move forward. Haruhiro's wandering scene has somewhat saddish music until he stumbles upon Mary. Haruhiro being naughty through the representation of the camera angles and subtle romance between him and Mary starts unfolding. But the lead up to that is a small MV section. The scene explains that why Mary lived separately to the party. She used to live where they did in the little shack place where all like the actual party lives. She used to live there with her old party, and so if she went to live back there, it would just bring back bad memories for about her own party. And so to spell it out is quite a grim sort of little bit of information of why she doesn't live with the rest of the party. The music kicks back up as Ranta and also Yume shots get shown of those two being together, whereas Yume is rock climbing and Ranta's fishing. And how the camera sort of represents it is... okay, the fishing rod in one shot of this looks like a symbolism for erection. I don't know, because like... with the scene, it's like the eye lines of Ranta looking up at Yume's ass is a thing here. So if you go back, look at the scene, you can interpret it in that way, or you could just go past it. But I'm pretty sure there is sexual tension in that small segment. Moguzo has a habit of carving animals. Contrast shot of Haruhiro running down the same path to her home. Haruhiro apologizes again to contrast the horizon shot. Mary decides to face her fears. This sets up for the final arc of Grimgar, Fantasy of Ash. The significance of Haruhiro's friendship to Mary. The classic line of self-deprecation of calling yourself stupid, then your romantic interest says no, you are not stupid, with their hands behind their back, can symbolise that she does have romantic interest for him. However, there is equal evidence that they are just friends. There's no contrast in the anime with the people of this world, so we don't really have a clear picture because it's only a 12 episode anime. I am reading it as a romantic interest, more primarily because of how the story is set up. But if it's just, you see it as more of a straight D&D section, and you can interpret it that way as well. Haruhiro's preparation to go into the Siren Mines is to learn sneak attack and spider from his mentor. I swear on my life, this stuff is so fucking Guna coded. With the thudding, the panting, she literally sits on him. What the fuck? Like, okay, this anime again. This is where they get their sales, Angus. This is where they get their sales. Don't think about it critically. The teacher continues to be sus, elaborating on the critical hit foreshadowing. So Barbara, i.e. the teacher, is trying to force out like Haruhiro's feelings about his party members in a very, very cinematically shot, sort of sexually connotated way. Yeah, no. Episode 9 ends on the introduction to the Siren Mines. Episode 10 begins with Haruhiro seeing Ranta being reckless and also goes out of his way to try and understand him. The nose ring plot hole happens within episode 10 as well, with the kobold's nose rings not being properly animated nor like actually put inside the episode. Basic plot point of the deeper you go down the dungeon, the harder it gets. The older kobolds are stronger, which is again a very common thing that you get in a lot of RPGs, which like more senior members are stronger inside a race of creatures. Haruhiro has a talk with Ranta. Ranta's argument he was able to 1v1 an enemy, which considering the party dynamics, it isn't a step in the right direction, but his general behaviour causes conflict within the party, quote unquote intentionally. This is covered more so in the light novel, because he wants people to blame him instead of blaming someone else, to try and keep the team stable, as I said before. Interesting choice of emphasis on Mary as well. Ranta is saying, is it entirely fair to blame him? Unity versus individual strengths, which is the primary argument of Haruhiro versus Ranta in their argument. Haruhiro is cutting off a connection point to understanding Ranta with not sharing his weaknesses with him. Ranta pissed off, saying, I'm not going to be your team member and not your friend. This does not last, but again, it's just a dick thing to say. A solid description of Haruhiro in this argument. He wants to present as strong or right, sometimes without making the effort to de-escalate the conversation or take accountability or blame for his own failings. Dagger throwing scene. Upgrade! Mary got a new light magic skill upgrade, which is basically just a slow spell with very limited range. It works in combo with the DPS and tank builds, usually when you play maybe like D&D or just an RPG. Moguzo then learned a new skill, Fast Thrust, which has longer range. New skill as well, Back Thrust. Thrust attack enemy while backing away. The kobolds have farms. This shows their intelligence and their danger to the party. Haruhiro says he forgives Ranta over something kind of dumb. Ranta accidentally sets off the alarm, and then this is the first introduction of the death spot that was mentioned back in episode 6. Mari then freezes up from seeing the death spot, and then zoom in with Mary freaking out, and then the episode ends. Episode 11. The episode starts off with a flashback with Mary's friends, of how she was before the deaths of her friends. Shows kobolds doing metal work. To put this in comparison, say a 7 foot or 8 foot bipedal wolf could make weapons in a pre-industrial, pre-gun world. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's fucking scary. The quote-unquote safe spot is a quote-unquote checkpoint that used to be a old place of worship and a form of religion that got destroyed. Then Mori's new skill, Dispel, instantly basically kills them. Like they did it once in JoJo, I actually never did it a few times in JoJo. Team up of Runter and Haruhiro against the thief to show the beef with Runter, saying you are not Minato. I love the final dispel of the headbat slowly turning to dust in the mist of a hug. Again, like, the scene is very sad. It's very, very symbolic of a final goodbye to your former friends who are basically no longer with you. Back to the Ashes again, a cough cough, main title, cough cough. Haruhiro's monologue of the significance of their lives in general, literal callback to episode 4. Oh my god. After defeating the No Life Kings, they continue to have a nothing burger conversation about the future. Then suddenly the death spots burst through the wall. Then cue the action sequence of them running away. I really like this chase sequence. It's really quite dynamic of how basically they use like the height as a scary factor and to increase severity and to basically make it feel dangerous. And also because of the colour red of the molten lava that the kobolds are smelting. Then suddenly, Randa risks his life to save Haruhiro despite their differences, to make it clear that he severely cares. Oh my god, it's so cute. Randa proceeds to fall down to the kobolds on the 3rd floor by accident to fight them by himself. Haruhiro gets annoyed slightly about him acting quote-unquote noble and quote-unquote out of character. Cliffhanger of the shots of Ranto doing a war crime against the kobolds for a cliffhanger to the finale. Episode 12 of Despots and Ranta's Bloody Helmet, trying to debate the audience to ask, is Ranta dead? Until you see him climb back up to the first layer. It's like, for fuck's sake, it's such a classic debate move. But again, it's what kind of makes it so kind of funny. Ranta's demon finally shows in episode 12. Again, this was first referenced in episode 4. It's literally been 8 episodes for this one little guy to show up. This is specifically a perk of his Dark Knight class within the story. The demon basically just insults him and tells him to die. He's just a little guy like that, you know. Yume complains about Ranta calling her flat, foreshadowing to the reason why the classic saying about you boys bullying girls when children is because they like them. Sometimes it's true, it's just a saying, but in this case, it rings true. Yume sympathises with Ranta. Haruhiro reassures Ranta is fine. Then suddenly, a random kobold walks up. To get stabbed in the chest. God, I love blood. So this is yet another action sequence. Ranta trapped in a shed with kobolds attacking from the outside. Ranta laments to himself and the audience that he wanted to touch Yume's chest. And so we finally, as an audience, have a confirmation that he indeed was looking at her ass. I.e., he was looking at her romantically. Supposedly. Then, the Death Spots smashes the shed and starts chasing Ranta with a classic scary monster eye shot. Then, he gets saved by the Archer Girl. He is limping as well to show his efforts that he made to survive. They successfully climb up to the next level. Then there's some undisclosed spells names. Then also, there's dialogue of Ranta being a tsundere to Yume and the party, and it's quite endearing. Banter between the party members. Then escape attempt 2 because the fucking Death Spots climbed up to them, so they had to go up another level. Then basically Haruhiro has a reflection monologue while climbing up the rope. Then basically the monologue basically is just about him glazing Minato and saying how great Minato is. Or then suddenly Death Spots, the intensity for the finale moment. Suddenly Death Spots climbs up to the first level with them. for their final battle. In the dub, Mary states the more damage he takes, the stronger he gets. Again, I'm listening to the dub because it's the only files I could find on it. There's a massive trope now, action scene. Okay, this parallels Haruhiro attempting to sacrifice himself to fight the big bad in episode 11 with Ranta. The spider technique not looking like Spider. It seems that he shouts out Spider, which is ironic, complaining about the things that Ranta does. The green flash animation referencing episode 1, a wake-up shot of Haruhiro's face, again repeated and paralleled. Now injured, Haruhiro has flung off the death spots off the cliff. The stakes intensify again with Ranta telling him not to die, paralleling his heroic quote-unquote sacrifice of episode 11. His tag falls on the floor before he gets a crit. Is it their novice trainee soldier tag? I have no clue. I don't know what the symbolism is. I think it's just like him graduating from him being a novice is, I think, the visual symbolism. And it cuts to him passing out and plus succeeding after he successfully gets the crit off on the death spot. Haruhiro wakes up to Mary smiling plus humming, which again calls back to episode 7's his wish for to see Mary smiling. Some nifty perspective switches also ask, is this heaven? Mary smiling and laughing, saying, it's not heaven, it is home. What's weird about that is because supposedly Mary is from their world, and so heaven exists in this parallel Isekai world, which is a bit of inconsistent writing, if I'm going to be really nitpicky, but I think most cultures have a form of heaven, but I'm just being really nitpicky. The anime then goes on to show getting surrounded by food, getting surrounded by his friends, him getting a massive bag of money, therefore concluding the story. Some room for a sequel with Moguzo's shield. Shots of wanting posters from episode 1's foreshadows being torn off by the recruiter. It ends on the motherfucking bridge again. The animators on this anime fucking love this bridge. I swear to God. Mary fixes his tag. Renji scene softens over. Again, it's like a bit. They should, like, Renji was set up to be the primary antagonist. They did nothing with it. The final goodbye to Minato. Poor Minato, he got fucking decimated. To finally conclude Manato's story, Manato's illusion says the thing Haruhiro wants to hear the most, that he has really grown since they have met. again, our hero is such a Manitou Glazer. I cannot. The anime finally ends on a brand new adventure trope in hopes for a sequel. This anime is missing a few scenes from the light novel that happened in this time period, and also they messed around with some continuity as well. But overall, I think, even despite all this problem, it's such an amazing sort of emotive set piece that I can forgive its failings. Because also it has quite a bit of visual metaphors, it has some foreground, and not to mention, it has our shots. We'd be winning back in 2016. Now in 2025, 9 years later, I've been watching anime for 9 years. Help me!
Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist.
To conclude this entire anime, Grimgar Fantasy of Ash is a 10 out of 10 anime. I have not covered everything inside the thing, primarily on the topic of its, like, the poverty subject of in the earlier bits of the story. But my next work will be Hikaru no Go, which is a 75 episode anime, which I'll try and cover to the best of my abilities and probably just pick out some few little lit bits to do it a bit quicker, because it's very repetitive. So I hope that you have enjoyed the video, and this is my first production of many, and end scene.